everybody, this is SaberX coming to you live with a brand new video review for the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series by Creative Beast Studio and David Silva. And today we are going to be looking at the 1/18th scale Torosaurus latus, one of the last figures in the main Ceratopsian series line for Beasts of the Mesozoic. So here we are, there it is. And before we take a look at this enormous figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging for it, shall we? So here we have the box for the Beasts of the Mesozoic Torosaurus latus. And as you can see, it's huge! Just like the figure. So inside, of course, you have the diorama that can be removed and placed behind the figure if you wish to have a dramatic background. And of course, you also get this incredible artwork by Raul Ramos on the front of the packaging, which is really cool. There were multiple artists who contributed for the Ceratopsian series for Beasts of the Mesozoic, and yeah, his work is absolutely fantastic. On the back, you of course get the information on Torosaurus, as well as a look at the other obligatory product shots for the Wave 3 Ceratopsians. So there you have that, and away with the box, back with the figure. So in addition to the figure itself, you also get this really cool card, which has Raul Ramos's art on it, as well as the Torosaurus figure itself with the background set piece on it, and of course all the necessary information. And then in addition to that, there are a set of instructions for tail assembly for the Ceratopsians, and this is standard for all the Ceratopsians in the boxes. You do have to heat up the tail either with hot water or a hairdryer. I highly recommend a hairdryer for this because, for one thing, it's a lot more focused heat, and if you dry it off with, if you dry hot water off, it tends to cool very quickly, so it might not allow the plastic to remain soft enough or expanded enough to actually fit it over the ball and socket joint in the base of the hips for these figures. And this is particularly true of Torosaurus and the adult Triceratops. So I do really, really strongly recommend a hairdryer for that. And I also would recommend heating up the joints with the hairdryer as well, because not only are there ratchet joints in the elbows and knees for the adult Triceratops and the Torosaurus, but their joints are just so tight that you do not want to risk breaking the figure by just trying to bend them cold turkey. So again, I highly recommend using a hairdryer to just soften everything up so that you can bend it and pose it, and just keep doing that until until the figure's joints are loose enough that it can be posed without the risk of breaking. And yeah, there also was a problem early on with Torosaurus, which is why I waited until now to actually review this figure, because when the figures were first being made, there was a small manufacturing flaw in the left ankle joint for Torosaurus. And it was a small percentage of figures, but it was enough of a problem that David Silva actually had spare parts shipped out to anyone who had this problem and had their figure break its ankle on them. So very, very glad that he did that. Very glad they fixed the issue. And for anyone who wants to get this figure now, you don't have to worry about any figure breakage unless you actually break it yourself. It's not going to break off unless you actually do damage to it, like hitting it, but like by hitting it with a hammer. But I know you're not going to want to hit this with a hammer, so Yeah, it's too beautiful. Anyway, let's get on to reviewing the figure itself. So here we have our glorious Torosaurus, and as you can see, he is vibrantly colored. His color scheme is actually based off that of a tree monitor lizard, the blue tree monitor, and it absolutely works phenomenally for Torosaurus. I mean, look at the coloration on that. The white, the blue, the red head and yellowish eye spots. Just phenomenal. There is a little bit of paint damage there, but I kind of like to think that this particular Torosaurus got battle scarred a little. So he's been through his share of fights. And I can say the same thing about his horns. He looks like he's been in a couple of fights, and his pigment is, his pigmentation is a little bit worn as a result of constant battles. But I think it just gives a lot of individualism to the figure, and I love the patterning. I do. I love it. And I love how on the belly it fades into this kind of yellowish, this sort of yellowish pigment with a little blue between. It really, really works. It's stunning. It absolutely is stunning. I mean, well worth the money I spent for it, which was a lot, by the way, but I'll get into that later. Now, in regards to articulation, like all of the Wave 3 ceratopsians, Torosaurus has movable jaws. He does have a movable tongue inside his mouth, but it's very, very hard to access because his tongue is so small. And so it does have a ball joint, but I wouldn't recommend playing with it too much, if at all, because honestly, it's too far back in the mouth, and it doesn't really affect anything. But he's absolutely gorgeous. He can move his head right, like so. There is a bit of a gap, by the way, on either side when you turn his head this far. But if you have his head facing toward you, like this, and you turn it towards you, it doesn't show. But he can move his head left and right. He can also move his head down about that much. He can move it up about this much. And he just looks so incredible doing that. He does have torso movement up and down and left and right, like you see here. So he can go about this far down, this far up. And he's a very heavy figure, so this is a little bit awkward just because of his weight. But he's got very stiff joints, so you're not going to worry about him having any sort of slippage or anything. But in addition to his torso and neck, he also has front legs that can rotate a full 360, though I don't recommend it. He can rotate them full 360 at the shoulders, about 90 degrees at the elbow, and again, there's ratchet joints in the elbow, so he's got very tight joints. They just kind of pop into place when you got his legs straight. Now, he does not have the same level of wrist swivel as some of the smaller ceratopsians, like the Sinoceratops or Styracosaurus or Zuniceratops, and that's just because of his natural biology. Larger ceratopsians had feet that tend to splay out, so he doesn't have that full range simply because it's one, it's a more natural pose, and two, because of this figure's size. But he can move his feet forward and back. You can move them a little bit side to side, just to give him better balance. And honestly, that's really all you need. Now, for his hind feet, he cannot, well, for his hind legs, he can move his back legs about this far back and about this far forward. So he's got quite a bit of range of motion, but he cannot do a full 360 with his legs because of clearance issues, and it's just too big to do it. He is literally so large he can't do a full 360 with his back legs. But at the knee joint, he can move his knees about this far forward for both legs, and about this far back for both legs at the knee. His ankles can go about this far back, this far forward, and his feet also, of course, if you can see this properly, he has foot swivel and pivot, and he, of course, can move his feet this far forward, this far back, and it does give him some pretty good range of motion. And, of course, his tail goes up, left, right, and down. But yeah, absolutely incredible. And yeah, he's not gonna have any loose joints that are going to affect his movement, because one, his joints are very tight, and two, ratchet joints. They really worked. They really work on this figure very well. And I cannot tell you just how amazed I am by this figure. Yeah, he's probably the only figure in the line that has come super close to giving me blisters because of how tight his joints are. So again, if you really want to pose this well, I highly recommend hair dryers. Heat from a hair dryer to just kind of soften him up and let you move his joints a little bit more. But yeah, once I loosened those joints up, yeah, not a problem getting him into incredible poses. And he can do them all. He is just that well put together. Now, in regards to facts about Torosaurus, it is one of the largest ceratopsians out there. A full-grown adult can reach about 26 to 30 feet long, and it was also contemporary with fellow ceratopsian Triceratops. Of course, Torosaurus seems to have been more rare. I think it was more of a solitary animal compared to Triceratops, which lived in groups of about 5 to 10, according to the latest research. There was also a brand new fact that was discovered within this year, and that was published a few days ago, or rather a week ago, where it also determined that ceratopsians like Triceratops were probably cold-blooded, unlike meat-eating dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex, which also lived alongside Torosaurus and Triceratops. And yeah, so it's quite likely that Torosaurus, just like Triceratops, was cold-blooded and had a metabolism similar to modern reptiles, such as crocodiles, lizards, and snakes, which kind of makes sense. Although there probably were some outliers that lived in cooler climates that needed a warm-blooded metabolism. So we need to do a bit more research. But overall, it seems that ornithischian or bird-hip dinosaurs such as hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, and ankylosaurs were probably ectothermic, aka cold-blooded. Now, there is also a very cool fact in regards to Torosaurus itself, and for a while it was believed, particularly by paleontologist Jack Horner, that Torosaurus was the adult form of Triceratops, which is actually no longer a valid hypothesis, especially since subadult and juvenile Torosaurus have actually been found. Fossils of them show that it was a separate genus from Triceratops. And yeah, it had a pretty extensive range too. Torosaurus has been found from as far south as New Mexico to as far north as Canada. So it had quite an extensive range, but it was probably a lot rarer than Triceratops was. And yeah, very interesting animal. I would absolutely love to see this animal, to absolutely see this animal in the flesh had it been still alive by this point. But yeah. Now, in regards to the size of this figure, it is approximately from the tip of the horns to the end of the tail, a little bit over 17 inches, almost 18. But yeah, it is one of the 2 largest ceratopsians in the entire toy line. It's absolutely huge. And to show you just how huge this particular ceratopsian is, it also stands about 8 inches at the top of the frill, by the way, just to give you a sense of that size. But to show you just how big that is in comparison to his brethren in the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series, let's do a little comparison. So here we have Zuniceratops right next to Torosaurus, and as you can see, Torosaurus is absolutely gigantic. These are to scale, by the way. They are both 1/18th scale figures, so this animal is absolutely huge compared to its early relative. Zuniceratops is about the size of a cow in real life, so yeah, not a small dinosaur, but it is absolutely dwarfed by the 10-ton Torosaurus. Now, here's a comparison of it with a 12-inch figure compared to the 6-inch Zuniceratops, which is absolutely tiny comparison-wise. But this is Cosmoceratops next to Torosaurus, and again, it absolutely dwarfs it. This is a 10-inch figure. This is a 17-inch figure. Just absolutely gigantic. Heck, in regards to how big Torosaurus is. Here is a 14-inch Styracosaurus figure from the Beasts of the Mesozoic toy line. And again, there's really no comparison. Torosaurus is gigantic. It's huge. And then finally, we actually have Centrosaurus from Wave 2. And while this is actually a bit bigger than the average Centrosaurus, this is more 1/15th scale compared to 1/18th scale, or 1/13th scale. But this would be a very large Centrosaurus in real life had it been compared to an actual Torosaurus. Again, there's really no comparison between the two, just in regards to how big Torosaurus is compared to its fellows. And it's not even the biggest ceratopsian. Triceratops is the biggest we know of, but there may have even been 40-foot ceratopsians, according to some evidence that, yeah, in the form of fossil footprints. But yeah, Torosaurus is absolutely huge. It is also the most expensive toy in, well, it is also one of the 2 most expensive toys in the line. This figure was about $140 on CreativeBeast.com, which is where I got it. But yeah, if you can afford to get this figure, I highly recommend you do so. I mean, it's beautiful. And we are getting a fan's choice variant based on the Walking with Dinosaurs Torosaurus. That's going to be even more awesome. And I'm going to definitely try and get the Walking with Dinosaurs variant so that I can have what I consider a male and female variant of Torosaurus, with the Walking with Dinosaurs variant standing in as the female, and of course this mainstream variant representing the male Torosaurus. And honestly, I could see the male Torosaurus being blue like this as a means of showing off to the ladies. But yeah, just an incredible, incredible figure. And I can't recommend, if you can afford this, or if you can save up to get this figure, definitely get it. It is beyond words. So this is SaberRex signing off, saying, you're never too old to play with toys. Hey, so be a toy nerd, be proud of it. Thank you, and have a good day. Bye.